aren't supposed to use magic. That's what the Leshin say, at least. They fought a 30-year war to stop us from using our machines to draw energy from the Fae. It didn't work. In the last days of the war, a few Leshin radicals staged an attack on the Fae reactor in the city of Onagrad. They vaporized most of the city and killed thousands of innocent civilians. It ended the war, but not like they hoped. Horrified by the actions of their leaders, moderate Leshin overthrew their government and sued for peace. The immolation of Onagrad changed everything. It changed the relationship between our two peoples, bringing an end to the war, but deepening our mistrust and hatred. It changed the landscape of human society, sending small city-states running to the growing empire for protection. And it changed me, because I was there. Humans aren't supposed to use magic, but now I can. I just can't control it very well.
Hello everybody, welcome to another True Review. Today I'm bringing you The Echoes of the Fae, Episode 1, The Fox's Trail.
Again.
Now, what we have here is a visual novel. Now, it's only going to be released in North America, US, Canada regions. It's going to be priced at $7.99. So, what's a visual novel, you may be asking? Well, it's something we don't get an awful lot of in the West. They tend to be more centered around Japan, and majority of them tend to be anime based as well. There's quite a lot of them available on the Xbox 360 that you can purchase if you do have a Japanese Xbox, but we don't tend to get many that reach us in the West, and we get even less that are actually developed in the West as well, which this one actually is.
Don't panic.
So, as the name kind of suggests, it's a visual novel. There's a lot of reading going on here. You generally read the conversations that happen within the characters, and gameplay tends to be very, very restrictive. You read the conversations, you read the dialogue, and at various points during that dialogue, you'll get choices to make. You may say you want to tell the truth to somebody, or you may want to lie. That will obviously send the story down a different branching path, and then you'll reach another dialogue option, and so on and so forth till you reach the story's conclusion. So there's not an awful lot of actual gameplay here. It's more like kind of choose your own adventure through the dialogue that the game presents you with. The graphical style of these games tends to be normally that the characters who are talking in the scene will be stood at the forefront. It's usually really well drawn in a cartoony kind of style, as you can see on the screen at the moment. We've got I think there's Herman, and there's his cat, Sofya, and there's also his client, which you'll probably see in the footage, Taifa. Those characters will talk between themselves, the dialogue box will appear, you'll pick one, and as I say, the game will proceed in that way. Now, unusually for a visual novel, the transitional points between scenes is handled differently. Majority of the Japanese titles tend to handle this through the use of a map screen where you choose where you want to go. However, Echoes of the Fae, you actually have a side-scrolling section where you move around the various environments. Now, the game world's not very big. That's one issue I have with the game. I think there's an awful lot of characters and an awful lot of going on in a very, very small area, or a seemingly small area. You basically have 4 different planes. You have the city limits, you have the outskirts, and you have 2 areas of the town. And in these locations there is various doors and buildings you can go through, such as the church, the town hall, banquet halls, there's the bookshop, there's the Imperial Legion's office, which is kind of like the law enforcement. And you go into these areas and you will have conversations with the characters in there, or if it's a shop, you are able to spend gold, which you obtain from completing side quests.
Your plan didn't
now,
make
you
any
never really
sense.
get lost in this game. You always know what you've got to do by simply hitting the back button. You can see a list of objectives, and once you figure out where everything is, as I say, the game world's not that big, so it doesn't take that long. You simply go from A to B to C to D to complete the objectives and progress the story. In terms of story, what do we have? Well, it's quite an interesting one. There's been an event that's happened pre-game called the Immolation. which has given humans the ability to use magic, which was only reserved for the race of Leshins, which look like elves to me, though I don't think the game actually confirms that. I'd have to probably double check that again. But yeah, humans are not supposed to have magic, and humans obviously have not been brought up using it, and they tend to be a bit more reckless, and the magic tends to be a bit more erratic. And you play as Sofya, who is one of these humans who was affected by the immolation. And Herman is trying to get her to understand her power and to control it and try and be responsible. But Sofya's a bit impulsive, hot-headed, a bit reckless, and she really wants to use the powers. It's fun to use them after all. So we join the story where Herman's got a client talking to him, which is Taifa, who is wanting him to find her son because Herman is a private investigator. And Herman doesn't want to take the case on, he's a bit reluctant to do so. Her son has probably dead due to because he was a soldier, but his mother didn't send him pass. Apparently there's a link between a family link that when a member passes over, there's some kind of disturbance in the ether, and she didn't feel that, so she believes he's alive or somebody's been withheld against his will somewhere. And Herman just simply thinks he's dead and has passed away, and is not very interested. But Sofya's being impulsive and wants to take the case on, and that forms the crux of our story, is finding out where the lady's son is and what's actually befallen him.
How disappointing.
Quite a lot of typical twists and turns in the story, as you would expect, and for the most part it's generally well written. There is a few conversations which, if I'm honest with you, do drag, and I wish they would have been a bit shorter and got to the point an awful lot quicker. But it never reaches that point where it outstays its welcome and you want to turn the game off. It does. It just cuts the conversations at the right time, and there is quite a lot of interaction points as well. Obviously, when the interaction points, some of them are more important than others, and some of them will send the story down diverging paths. In terms of achievements, you're looking at a very easy 1000 gamer score if that's what you're into. Creative use of save points will limit the amount of replay that you have to actually do to experience all the dialogue options to get all the achievements. As you can see, graphically it's a pretty decently well drawn title. The main focus is the conversations, where the characters are at the forefront and they're all well defined, well drawn and well coloured. Transitional scenes in between are not as good, but they do a job, and you won't really be spending much time in these areas at all anyway, so it's not really that impactful on the gameplay. Sounds a bit of a mixed bag. When the game first starts off, it seems a bit of like a sci-fi kind of horror movie kind of music, I think, the opening credits, but then it goes into more kind of fantasy traditional fare, and the music, while nothing stands out particularly, is pretty solid. Now obviously this game's not going to be for everybody. If you don't want to be heavily reading through loads of text to experience your games, then this isn't the kind of genre for you. Visual novels won't be your cup of tea, but I thought the story was very well written, and as I say, there was only a few occasions where the dialogues kind of outstayed its welcome. So I think for about the 3-4 hours it will take you to go through on an initial playthrough. I think the asking price of $7.99 is very reasonable for what it is, and if this is the start of the series, I'm hopeful that the next episode will maybe expand the world a little bit more, so there's a bit more scope and a bit more feel for it, and we get to see what Sofya's powers are actually going to evolve into. So I'm going to give it a recommended. Really enjoyed the title, and can't see no reason why not to pick this up straight away, to be honest with you. So I hope you enjoyed the review. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.